We do our job. We use reason. We don't look to just what's popular. And that's where you're seeing the paradox. But the problem with the super case, of which we've heard three mentioned, the problem with the super case like this, the rare case, the watershed case, where people are really opposed on both sides, and they really fight each other, is they're going to be ready to say, no, you're just political, you're just politicians. And that's what kills us as an American institution. That's what they're saying. So we're looking at it for that, but we are looking to, and that, they say, is a reason why. A reason why, when you get a case like that, you better be damn sure that the normal stare considerations, stare decisis overruling are really there in spades, double, triple, quadruple, and then they go through and show they're not. Okay? What's the paradox? Maybe you think I've just made an argument that there isn't one, but really, in my head, I'm thinking I'm not sure. There may be one, and I don't know if you've ever thought about this. I don't know if you've ever, when that occurred to you. I don't want to overrule the stare. I wouldn't want the court to overrule the stare decisis section of Casey. You say?
Okay, so let me just cut in here. I was thinking about this, what he was trying to say, and let me give you a really, really extreme example. So let's say we're back in 1940, 45 in Germany, and there's some ruling where what happened to the Jews was okay. It was, I mean, they were in government. They could do what they want. Now, of course, it was wrong, and they've been like held accounted for that. But at that moment, for them as a government, as a nation, they could do that. And if they were not conquered by the Americans and allies, they would have continued to do that. But what if something crazy like that is part of the law, where you would just kill people because of their ethnicity, their race, like it was in America with the slaves? What if you have that in your law? It's okay to do that. Would it be crazy if someday, later on, when people have evolved and they realize that it's not okay, when they're that at that point they believed that was okay, and then later at a point they believe that's no longer okay, that was like really, really wrong, and now after so many years they realize it? Like, what they're saying here is that it was the law, and now you're saying, well, the law was wrong, and that is something, really something to say. Basically, is a change of political ideas that the people have. And people can say, well, then it's just political, so let's not change it. But that's the whole thing about why certain rules are done. Why that's how our world, how we live. We decide, as that's democracy. If 51 people want A, then A happens and not B. So, and if like 20 years later, 51% want B, then A no longer happens. And that could be good, that could be bad, and people can have different opinions of that. Of course, 49% will disagree with what 51% wants. But that's how democracy wants. You really cannot have, you will always have that 49 or 30 or 44%, that minority that will not have their views met. and the 51% or 60% or whatever majority there is will have their ideas met. And they don't want, they say, well, and he's saying, well, in that case, if people will always look at us as a court, where people will say, well, this is just politics. We're changing the rules because the majorities have changed. And the problem is that they can use that as an argument. Well, now we cannot, the court has decided this in the past, and we have to keep these rulings because else it will look bad for the court. But he is saying, well, shouldn't we then not be allowed to really look at this case? Is it really what's happening in this case, what's happening in this law? Is it really helping people or not? And he is making this statement for where in the end we really have to do what is the best for the people, what we believe is the best for the people on a personal level. And it cannot be an argument that that we could never do that. We could never, like what happened to the Jews could never be changed because it would be a political statement. You know what I mean? Like, oh, politics changed. Well, hey, we cannot. Hey, stop killing Jews, man. Hey, shut off the gas, and like, I know it's a stupid, crazy example, but for a lot of people, basically, this is mainly what is happening in the world, where it's been political. If you're opposed to communism, you get killed. If you were opposed to Nazism, you were killed. If you were the wrong race, you got killed. If you were, you get in problem, like people can get killed for their sexuality, and actually there are countries where that happens. They can actually kill you for being homosexual, or lesbian, or whatever. So there are countries where a woman gets stoned to death for not adhering to certain rules. So there are a lot of political rules where it's okay to kill a person or a human being for whatever reason that they invent that it's okay to do so. Now, of course, it is never okay to kill a person. I mean, unless a person is like trying to kill you, or when it's war where they're trying to kill you, then why would you just kill some? What is the reason for even just somebody who's sitting in jail? You just, take you out of your jail and then kill that person. Why not just give them life and keep them in jail for life? Why kill them? Now, killing a person, it's if it's unnecessary, then it's not allowed. That's what it says, like thou shalt not kill, right? It's like, it doesn't say thou shalt not murder, it says thou shalt not kill. So it's not even a question if it is lawful to kill a person. It just says it's against the law, God's law, to kill a person. And the only reason that abortion is so political and so big of an issue is that a large group of people are convinced that it's okay to kill a human being. It's okay to kill a human being. Because if you look at this, what they're talking about time periods, 24 weeks, should we go lower, should we go higher, this and that. They are like, it's not okay to kill a baby if it's 24 weeks or older. That is wrong. But it's not wrong to kill a baby if it's lower than 24 weeks. And that's like saying, well, you cannot kill a person if they're like 50%, if they're 51% not white, then, like that's what the Nazi would say. Oh yeah, but this person has 10% is 10% Jewish, so let's put him in a gas chamber. Oh, this person is black, so you know you can sell this person. Oh, this person is female, so we pay them 10% less. Oh, this person is gay, so he cannot go to our church. Oh, this person is obese, so he has to pay more money for his insurance. This person smokes, so we're not going to put him on life support. Uh, or you are making judgments on if people live or die, or how do they live their life, and what quality of life they have. Basically, because you make a distinction on what kind of person or what kind of human being they are. I mean, I'm even a human being has the right to live. That's basically what we all know. Like, if you kill an innocent, if you take an innocent life, they call that murder, normally. But now they say, well, oh, we have this line drawn in the sand, and it says 24 weeks, and we can discuss about, should we go higher or lower, should we change things, should we, and there actually basically there is really no reason. If you're saying that you can abort a child before 24 weeks, you can abort it at 9 months, you can abort it like after 2 years after it is born. But there is really, it's that crazy to make an assertion about somebody's life because of their age. It's crazy. Oh, the age is 24 weeks. Oh, now we can no longer kill it. Oh, it's 24 weeks. We can kill it. Oh, there should be no discernment. There should be no reasoning for somebody to be able to be killed. There's no an innocent person, and not if it's not a soldier, it's not somebody who is like threatening somebody else's life, then there should be no lethal force, no lethal thing that you can do to end that person's life for any arbitrary reason, not for their sex, not for their age, not for their sexuality, if they're man or female or whatever. There should never be a reason, not for their race, and the fact that there is now a distinction for human beings younger than 24 weeks that they can be killed is pure it just goes, it's the same as any other reason. It's the same as saying you can kill a black man because he is of a certain race. You can kill a Jew because it's our government, our governance, our leaders say we can. There is no it shows that insanity that the Germans had when they were killing Jews, and the insanity that the slave owners had when they were owning slaves, that the insanity that homophobic people have when they beat up homosexuals, that the insanity that men have when they abuse women, that insanity even goes up to the highest levels of our society, where we don't even recognize how bad it is to make this line in the sand where we we cannot even see what we are doing with innocent. I don't know. It's like you're trying to explain a German why not. Hey, German person, yes. Hey, Nazi, why, stop killing Jews. Why? No, they're not rats. No, they're not. No, they're not threatening your society. No, 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 that's propaganda. You've been listening to the radio too much. Yes, no, they're human beings. Yeah. Oh, hey, slave owner. Yeah, maybe you should just treat them better. You know what? Maybe even just set them free. No, 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 no. Don't kill them. Don't kill them. No, no. They're human beings. Yeah, they're human beings. If I have to, no, no, no. Don't kill that person that has political things to say that you don't like. No, no, no. It's okay. I mean, if communism would be good, why were you worrying about all these people that are against communism? Don't kill them. No, 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 no. You don't need to kill. Oh, you're gonna put them away. Okay, well, maybe don't do that either. If we are, I'm trying to explain people why it's wrong to hurt other people. I mean, how that we have to do that in 2021. Why am I'm sitting here having to explain people that you should not kill other people that are innocent, that are babies, that are not even born. They haven't done anything. They haven't hurt anybody. They haven't even made a sound. They haven't even had the chance to breathe air in their little lungs that are growing. They haven't seen their mommy or daddy. They haven't had the ability to be held by a parent. And those parents are choosing to destroy them. Why am I sitting here trying to explain that? What crazy world am I living in, I don't know. It's this. And there's this whole machine of that is trying to convince and persuade and blind people from even thinking about. They call it a fetus. Oh no, it's just a fetus. It's not even. Yeah, they say, well, like, yeah, it has no conscious. It's not conscious. It's an it. It's not a he or she. It's an it. It's a thing. I mean, like, you can cut off my finger. It's just a finger. It's still me. It's still my finger, but you can say it's just a finger. Well, who cares? But if you take away something that's growing inside of you, it's not even your hair of your finger. It's no longer that, because it's actually you. If you don't take away that life, it will get born. It will be a newborn baby. So you're destroying somebody who will be a newborn baby, who will be like a teenager, an old man one day. You're destroying that life that has only lived like a couple of weeks then, that only lived 24 weeks, that only lives 20 weeks, that you're ending that life at that point. And you can say, well, it has no conscience. Well, actually, babies do experience things. A baby is made out of the same cells we are. There are just less of them. Their heart is developing, their brain is developing, their senses are developing. Everything is developing. But that doesn't mean that they don't have senses, that they don't have tiny little brains growing there that is experiencing life. And also because at that point their awareness of their surrounding is not at the level as our awareness. I mean, Like, how many memories do you have do you have a memory when you were no, when do you remember when you got born? You don't remember when you got born. You don't remember that day. Do you remember seeing your father and mother or the doctors? Do you remember anything? So if you don't have any memories of that day, just like that 24-month-old babies, then why couldn't the doctor just abort you? Because you're saying that if you don't have memories of something, if you don't experience something, then you have no value. Then you don't have the same rights as any other human being. You know, like I have memories, and that's pretty unique. When I was 1.5 years, and that was because I was taken away from my mother, and that's when I saw her again with my stepfather, and I can remember it was like this tall woman, and there was this like a lot shorter Indonesian man, and they had some toys for me, and I was so happy. I wouldn't. My father sat down, and I went underneath his chair, and I wouldn't move. I want to stay with him. I had this sense that I belong to these people. But how many memories do you have from when you were that age? You probably don't have any, because you didn't have such an experience at that age. But does that mean that if your earliest memories is 5 years old, that you or 6 years old, that your life didn't have any meaning before that time? And if it doesn't have any meaning, then why stop at 24 weeks? You know, why not go through 9 months? And there are all kinds of reasons why they do draw that line, and why do they. I mean, they say that after 24 weeks you can, even if you had an abortion, the child would survive it, because if you take the child out, it will just like start screaming and breathing, and because it's already grown enough to survive. So basically, doing it after 24 weeks basically is you probably would end up destroying a life that's already functioning without the mother. So basically, because after below 24 weeks, that doesn't happen. If you take it out, it could not survive. That's why they have this line in the sand, and that just is like really, really, really stupid. It's like saying, well, if you're like if somebody's unconscious, if you're asleep, then it's okay. So, hey, somebody's asleep. He's not conscious, because he is now not awake. He's not. Or if you're like in a coma, or if you're in, I mean, like you no longer have any rights when you're like dependent on something else. If I had like some kind of illness, and I would be hooked up to a machine, and I would die if that machine is turned off, then basically I no longer am like viable. I'm no longer be able to live on my own, so I can be turned off, you know. I don't have my rights anymore to live. And basically, well, the thing is, like, if I stop eating and stop drinking water, if I stop breathing, like, they're all things that make that would really end my life really quickly if I would not do those things. And we're all dependent on things to live. Now, a baby before 24 weeks is dependent on a mother, because the lungs and everything and all those things are not ready to live without the mother. And that dependency is an excuse to say, well, at that point, it's okay to take there are always excuses: the color of somebody's skin, their religion, their race, their sexuality, their sex, their disabilities, um, there's no human being that does not has the right, that loses the right to live for any reason. You cannot. There's no reason, no excuse to strip somebody of their right to live. You cannot strip a baby of its right to live because it's not yet 24 weeks old. That is the most ridiculous, retarded, idiotic, stupid, uh, mentally insane, uh, morally wrong, stupidest argument ever made by anybody. To strip a baby of its right to live because it's not 24 weeks, and that's like, that's not a reason at all. That is not a reason. That's just as stupid as saying, well, that those people are a different race. That it's only a woman. It's, oh, it's a homosexual. Oh, it's a political dissident. Those are not reasons to kill a human being. The reasons to kill a human being is because they're trying to kill you. But the thing is that these babies cannot fight back. Only we can. You know, we can do something about this. We can change other people's opinions. Let them wake up. Show them the truth. Show them how insane this is. It's like trying to explain it to Germans, to slave owners, to neo-Nazis, to racists, trying to explain those people why they are wrong. To kill another person. Try to explain the wife beater why it's wrong. Try to explain the gay beater. Try to explain I don't even know why is this so hard to, why do I even have to, this is like a no-brainer, you know. It's a no-brainer to see that gassing 6 million Jews was wrong, that hanging slaves was wrong, you know, that that how women were treated was wrong, and they still are. I mean, many of these people are still treated badly, and it should be, and most people luckily now do understand that is wrong, you know. They do understand that you shouldn't look at at our differences. You shouldn't look at and basically those differences are, they are shown. Yeah, you can look at you can have different color, you can have different faith, you can have a different appetites, a different look, and those things might be strange for you to see all those people that are different than you, and sometimes they might even feel like so alien, so different, that you might feel discomfort thinking about those things, thinking about something that you don't know, that you have not much experience with, I don't even want to have experience with, but accepting that everybody is the same, that everybody has the same right of respect, I mean, if everybody deserves respect, shouldn't you start at everybody giving the right to not be killed? How can you say that you're upset about racism and then it's okay to kill a black baby? how can you say it's okay? How can you say that you're upset about misogyny? It's okay to kill a female baby, a baby girl. How can you say that you're LGBTQ blah blah blah? You are really like you want to change the world and show people how people should look different at those things and not be bigots. And then it's okay to kill babies that have those stuff. What if somebody found out a gene where they could recognize it, and people start like purposely abortioning, you know? And some abortions are purposeful. They are because they were not with the right man. They were out of wedlock. They were from, you know, there are a lot of abortions that are made basically because they didn't fit. It's not just because these babies were not just aborted because there's some reasoning for this, you know, that, but it doesn't really matter what the reasoning is, you know. It's not a reason why does a slave owner start flogging and killing their slave. It doesn't even matter that they tried to run away or they looked wrong at them or talked back. That it doesn't really matter that that the Germans were really afraid and jealous of the success of another race that was superior to them in some ways. A race that was better at making money, at business, at working together, at higher intelligence. It doesn't really matter that you're a straight man and you don't even want to think about or hear about men that have different appetites, you know. Like it feels like you want the whole world to be straight. Sure, I understand, that would be a lot easier, but I mean, apparently it's not, and we have to like accept that and accept people the way they are, and certainly not try to hurt other people because they have, you know, they're different. Treating women like they don't matter. You're really wrong if you do that, because women are just as good at doing anything as we men are. And there are differences between, like, there are really smart men and a really smart woman. And not every man is smart, not every woman is smart. But there are smart women that can do things just as good as smart men can. There are there are women that are just as good at politics as men are. Women that are just as good at management, at all sorts of jobs as any man can do. And we have to, and just as we have to grow out of that old-fashioned way of thinking, like why do we? I mean, women are different than men, but they're not less capable. Now, a woman can get pregnant, a man cannot. So, a woman who is working might need some time off. Well, is that a big problem? Is that such a big effing problem? No, it's not. It's not a problem, because they get holidays, right? We get holidays. When we get sick, we take time off. Do we really need to work like all the time? I mean, in like 10, 20 years from now, we're gonna have robots doing most of our work. They're already using them in big factories. You know, all the robots are doing the work. Like Elon Musk has has a factory that's like pretty much robots, you know. So instead of like forcing women to worry about their finances, their career, why not give them rights rights to get paid when they get pregnant? Now, is that different? Yeah, but different is not really. But this is the kind of thing that we do want, because if we uh, take consideration for the female working force, for the differences that they have towards us, men. Sorry, I'm just talking as a guy now. Then shouldn't they have a right to that? You know, um, shouldn't they have a right to get paid leave when they get pregnant? We men, most men, we all want families. So for us, it's just as good to have our wives or our partners to be able to take time off, paid. It's not gonna hurt the economy. It actually it will be more security for everybody, and 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 it and these are and even in our school systems, if a woman gets pregnant while she's still in school, why are we so like acting that is like, wow, that's not normal. It is normal, because relationships with if people have relationships with each other, this can happen. Does happen. Now we want to think that we're in a society where it doesn't happen, that uh, women that are still following education, that they cannot or should not become pregnant, and if they do, then they should lose their future. Well, that's kind of like narrow-minded. That's very narrow-minded. And these are the women's rights that I would like to see, where any female, birthing persons, as they say, anyway, any female that can have children and gets pregnant, that uh, gets pregnant, whatever they're doing, if they're in school, in whatever they're doing, they should get support to finish what they start, continue what they start, whether it's their career, whether it's their education, at whatever age. I mean, being able to get children is determined by biology. It happens at a certain age, and from that age, a woman should be protected from the consequences of that. It might not be their own choice. It might be a mistake. It doesn't really matter. Every woman, when they get, and I'm talking about with woman, and now I'm talking about the biological woman, when they become, when they gain the ability to get pregnant, they should have this woman's right to be supported when that happens, for whatever reason. Maybe it's within a marriage, fine. Maybe it's not within a marriage. Doesn't really matter. We are protecting not only the woman, but the child as well. Now you say, well, oh, we're going to have so much children. Sure, we're going to have more children if nothing else would happen. And I mean, when you give people more responsibilities and more consequences for their actions, they will behave also better. When the punishment is harder for bad behavior, people will behave less bad. Does that mean it will never happen? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it doesn't mean that 1 million abortions will become 1 million babies. Maybe 1 million abortions will become 200,000 babies. Because now abortions are basically um, contraceptives for some people. Can we handle like a few 100,000 more people every year? I think we can. And if you don't want that, then you could think about like educating people, helping them making a pre-decision, not a decision after a human being has been created, but one before an act happens that can create a human being. Get them more responsibility, more knowledge, more tools, a bit better toolbox for prevention. And if it happens, give them all the tools and support they need. So it is not the end of the world. The only reason that feminists lobbied for this is because of the social problems it has for the woman. And they want women to be at the same level as men. But they do it by stripping their femininity, stripping what a part of them. You do not make a woman equal by cutting their hair, by by giving them testosterone, by putting them in men's clothes, by stripping them of their makeup, by changing the way they talk, by completely brainwashing them. No, women and men tend to have some different interests, some different way of expressing themselves, clothing, etc. This is great. Most men love that from women, or most women love that from men. There are differences. But those differences do not make them any less than men. So I think that the traditional feminists make a big mistake here, where they pretend that the differences that women have are making them less. Actually, women have more. The ability to have a child is something that men do not have. And I'm talking about biological men, of course. So women can even do things that men cannot. And making that thing that they can do that we cannot, making that as some kind of a big problem that needs to be fixed in the most extreme way, by basically like doing what has been done to humans in the last couple of centuries without any consideration, like they had no value. They believed that the only value black men had was financial when they were slaves. Now they were free slaves, freed black men, but those that were slaves, their only value was that in their dollar value, you know. The Jews, they were stripped of all their belongings. I mean, their clothes, their jewelry. They took all those things, threw them on piles, and then they had to go naked into in what they thought were like showers. But the only shower they got was one of death. I mean, how do abortions happen? A lot of them are poison. Women takes a pill and it kills the baby. And we're talking about 1 million abortions a year, 60 years, 60 million abortions. So call me crazy for comparing that to to something horrible that happened to 1660 or to 6 million people. The horrible thing, most horrible thing that ever happened to a group of people that we know of, that most people are aware of, and most people understand to be. But we're talking about 60 million, 10 times that much human lives lost. And I know that some people, even as I talk to them, even as you talk to them, they don't really value those lives. They think, oh, they're not 24 weeks old, so but as a kid I looked at I had this medical uh, this book with the human about the human body. It was for young people, so it was very nicely illustrated. And I was thinking of becoming a doctor one day because my mother was sick always, and I didn't even know I had the capability to do it. I only found it out later that that was an option, but I had the desire to do it, and I thought, well, might as well just look through these books, who knows. And I wasn't doing that great in school right at that moment, so I was really like a dream for me, but more than something that I could actually do. And I looked through them not just once, but like probably like 10 times. I studied everything that was written in that book multiple times. I looked through all the pages, all the illustrations, and I studied them. And there was one part that I found really weird and hard to look at, and that I kind of skipped until the end, and that was like the embryos, you know. I looked at it, and then it was interesting, and when I was studying the book, it was not only until the end, when I had studied the rest of the book, I felt like, wow, why am I skipping this part so much? And I need to know this too, and I started studying that part too, and I saw the stages that a baby goes through from the beginning to the end. And you can see in the beginning that you have one cell, the female cell, and I mean, she loses that cell every month, but then a new one comes, and she has like a whole bunch of them, like a few hundred. Well, I'm more like 300 to 600, I think, but every month there's a new one, a new fresh one that's ready to become a human being. But it's just, after 2 weeks, if it's not met with a counterpart, it will just, a woman will lose that egg, that cell, and will get a new one. But when that doesn't happen, when that cell, that one cell, meets another cell, a male cell, they come together and they both have their DNA. And DNA is basically a whole bunch of information, like a blueprint. And those two blueprints of two completely different people, they come together. And it's like a double helix, and the double helix has two strings that are completely, it's like a staircase, and it's this double staircase, and they split in two, and then they come together to form a new one. So, and then you get this whole new information. I guess somewhere in that process, there's a decision made where they decide which one is the best information, and or the dominant information, I don't know. Anyway, this new information is put together, and new human life from that moment. That cell is the first cell. We all had that first cell. We all started as that first one cell. And from that one first cell that came out of these two cells, the male and female cells, this completely new cell will split up again, making making two new complete copies of itself with the same DNA that was in that first cell. And those will they keep doing that, so you will have you start with one cell, go to two cells. Those will all double up, so you will go from 2 to 4, from 4 to 8, from 8 to 16, 30 to 64. It's basically binary computer code here. So it just doubles and quadruples. I don't know. Anyway, the cells. This is the way that every life starts. It's this doubling of cells. Now, these cells will turn later into specific cells, specific brain cells, nerve cells, heart cells, all kinds of stuff. But it starts with a process of growing, and basically through our lives we are those cells. We are basically a composition of a lot of cells that work together to be our bodies. But on a basic level we're just cells, like sand on a beach. The beach is us, we're the beach, but the sand on the beach, that's us too. We are a composition of a lot of sand, a lot of cells to have one body. Now we can hardly, on our microscope, we can probably see those cells. You cannot see it with just with your eyes, but so these cells start dividing, and then those from the start they start building all these things that we are made of: our brain, our heart, our lungs, our feet, our arms. And you will see this embryo, and an embryo is a stage of a human life. So we call it an embryo, we call it a fetus, and we give these stages of a human being a name. Now, calling it an embryo doesn't make it less of a human being. It's like calling somebody an elderly. Oh, it's an elderly. Oh, he's an elderly. Okay, well then we could just bring him to, just put him down, because no, you cannot. Giving somebody a name, calling somebody an elderly because they are above 65 or 70 and have gray hair, doesn't change that person. It's still a person. Actually, it's kind of really the way we give names to a person. Oh, that's that's a teenager. Like, oh, he's just a teenager acting up. We're putting people in groups, and it can be useful to identify, but it also give them a lot of. Oh, we're calling somebody an elderly. We think, oh, he is the person maybe demented or whatever, or has all these diseases. Or by putting somebody in a group, you are really stripping them of their personality. By calling this first stage an embryo, I mean, it's useful for a doctor when you're working with these things, and these are actually the things that doctors call them. But you can also just call it a 1 week human being or a 6-week human being. I mean, it sounds like. The thing is that once you give these things names, when you give this stage, when you say, well, human life that's below 6 weeks, we call it a fetus. And now they go into the courts and they say, oh, the fetus this, the fetus that, and they go into the politics and say, well, it's the fetus. The fetus is removed. The fetus is destroyed. The fetus is, and it's almost like it's no longer. It's some kind of to me, it's almost like, I mean, they used to call, again, I'm going here with all the comparisons here, like they give people certain names, bad names. They use the N word. They call them rats. They call them all kind of like homophobic slurs that you can think of. The B word. They give bad names to groups of people, and then when they are trying to justify hurting those people, killing those people, then you can see that these people, they use these words when they are uh, the wife beater using the B word. It gives him an excuse. Oh, she's a bad female, you know, she's a B word. So I was justified in hitting her. So these bad people, they justify their own bad behaviors by not using a normal kind uh, um, word for uh, 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 that shows the humanity of someone. They dehumanize them by calling them the N word, by calling them a B word, by calling them a homophobic slur, by calling them whatever they now they are no longer a human being. No, they are a this and that, this negative with this negative connotations that actually people that are the same as them, the people, the other wife beaters, when you use the B word, they're like, okay, I can understand why, like these people, they tend to start to believe these people because they believe in the words. The racist will believe in that word. Uh, the homophobic person will believe, yeah, you can treat those people that way. So once the people that make these, that look down on other types of people, that are the people that use those words, because makes it easier for them. It shows their hatred, their dislike, their devaluation of this group of people and the way they want to treat these people, because it is a choice. Choosing to hate on people for their color, for their sexuality, for their sex, for their obesity. How many people are being calling names because they are fat? In school, how many people because they're short, because they are less attractive? You know, the schoolyard is the biggest, most racist, most bigotry. Bigotry starts in the school. you know I mean, school is the place where and even like the successful kids and the non-successful kids, you know the nerds, all there's such the schools are such you can see society worst, and it's the worst place, school, because it's even allowed. It's not. It's like sometimes these ideas are transferred by the parents, and because the parents and the other people, like they have these social classes, like the good looking kids, the popular kids, they all think what they're doing, that they're calling fat people fat, the fat kids fat, and the skinny long guy. I used to be a skinny long guy and with reddish hair, so I had a lot. And even and as a kid I was like very smelly, because my mother wasn't good at taking care of our home because of her illness. So, and we had a lot of cats, so I used to be very smelly. And I've learned how people are, and I kind of like understand that they really don't think much about they don't really think about how they treat other people, and 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 that's what's happening here too. Like they hear things like, oh, it's a woman's right, and they hear these things, and it sounds so good. A woman's right. Oh, who can what people that are against women's rights? Oh, they must hate women. Like, do you think I hate women? I took care of my mother for 20 years. You know, she was I had the sweetest mom anybody could ever had. You know, I love women. You know, I love my mother. You know, um, I don't have a family yet, but I would love them to bits. Calling somebody a woman hating woman because they are have other opinions. Um, Man, it's really disgusting to me. You know, disgusting how they use misogyny and all these words, and they're trying to put down people that are trying to look at things different way, trying to that see that this is an atrocity that um, really. Um, I mean, I think it's hard to look up in this case. I don't know. Maybe I can. 1 second, maybe. 1 second. I mean, Kavanaugh. Look at Kavanaugh here. I think, no.
The Constitution.
And I want to ask a question about.
Okay, so I don't know if this is the right part. Now, I know, let's just listen to what he has to say. Hopefully it's the right part.
Stare decisis, and to think about how to approach that here, because there have been lots of questions picking up on Justice Barrett's questions and others. And history helps. Think about stare decisis as I've looked at it, and the history of how the courts applied stare decisis. And when you really dig into it, history tells a somewhat different story, I think, than is sometimes assumed. If you think about some of the most important cases, the most consequential cases in this court's history, there's a string of them where the cases overruled precedent. Brown v. Board, outlawed separate but equal. Baker versus Carr, which set the stage for one person, one vote. West Coast Hotel, which recognized the state's authority to regulate business. Miranda versus Arizona, which required police to give warnings when about the right to remain silent and to have an attorney present to suspects in criminal custody. Lawrence v. Texas, which said that the state may not prohibit same-sex conduct. Knapp versus Ohio, which held that the exclusionary rule applies to state criminal prosecutions to exclude evidence obtained in violation of the Fourth Amendment. Gideon versus Wainwright, which guaranteed the right to counsel in criminal cases. Obergefell, which recognized a constitutional right to same-sex marriage. In each of those cases, and that's a list, and I could go on, and those are some of the most consequential and important in the court's history, the court overruled precedent. And it turns out if the court in those cases had listened, and they were presented with arguments in those cases, adhere to precedent. In Brown v. Board, adhere to Plessy. In West Coast Hotel, adhere to Atkins and adhere to Lochner. And if the court had done that in those cases, the country would be a much different place. So I assume you agree with most, if not all, the cases I listed there where the court overruled precedent. So the question on stare decisis is why, if, and I know you disagree with what I'm about to say in the if we think that the prior precedents are seriously wrong, if that, why then doesn't the history of this court's practice with respect to those cases tell us that the right answer is actually to return to the position of neutrality and not stick with those precedents in the same way that all those other cases didn't?
Okay, so I don't know if there was a part what I was thinking about, but just to react to it, again, this is what the other one was also saying, kind of like, I mean, they're talking here about changing a law that started like 60 years ago, and that was made because and to basically put abortion for the whole country, but he he is saying that, well, look at these other cases where they had like I think you say about like that men there was no same-sex marriage. There was the other was like this racist law where that he's showing that there were actually laws that were really wrong, that at least we think of as really wrong. Now, I know that not every Christian might agree with with like same-sex marriage. Uh, um, that's another thing. That's their religious freedom and their religion from their religious beliefs. That's a different question, difficult question. That I can talk about it for a long time, but maybe I will anyway. But the thing is, well, I will actually. My opinion is, if you look at I keep it shortly because it's a bit off topic, but you have like where Jesus gets the woman thrown in front of him. That's like she's been unfaithful, and that's actually, if you look in the law, in God's law, in the Bible, you see that there's this one law that says that she should be stoned to death, and they are. And he says, just keep it short, he says, well, anyone without sin throws the first stone. And nobody does. And then he says, well, I'm not going to do it either, because he's the only one without sin, of course. So I knew that nobody else could throw a stone, because nobody else was without sin. He knew that they were all sinful people. And so he said, well, I'm not going to judge you either, and go and do not sin again. Now, it's not that he is saying that she was right what she did. He's not saying that, because if he would have said that, they probably would have stoned him to death. No, he said, well, if anyone is without sin. So he is saying that, well, we all make mistakes, and we all are imperfect. So why are we judging each other on each other's mistakes? We would all be stoned to death if we would look at everybody else's mistakes. I'm the only one that is without mistake, and that is God's Son, that's God talking. And let God judge, and God says, well, I'm not going to judge you, just don't do it again. Now, interesting why I'm bringing this up is that because there are two rules. One is about actually something that looks like abortion, and another thing is about homosexual. Now, what it says about abortion, it says if people are fighting and they hit a woman accidentally, that is with child, and she loses the child, or the child is disfigured, then they will do, it's like an eye for an eye. If the child loses an eye, then the person who does that to the child, he will lose an eye. So you see here that actually, like, killing a child will end up you getting killed. So now you know how God thinks about abortion. There's another rule, and that is like these three rules are next to each other. And I think this is the second one. The first one's abortion. The second one is about homosexuals. And it's the same thing as with like with the woman that Jesus said actually upon, well, I will not judge you, and the homosexuals always also had to be stoned to death. So if a man was caught in a homosexual act, they were stoned. If the woman was caught in adultery, she was stoned. And so if Jesus says, well, look, to this woman, I will not judge you, and he says to all these people, well, if you have no sin, then you can stone them, but if you have sin, then don't do it. And then he even says, well, if you even think about a married woman, then you are with sin. You know, you are in your mind, you already had done adultery. Now, all these men probably were looking at this naked woman, probably already were fantasizing about stuff. So and through their lives they probably fantasized about all kinds of women. So they were aware of that their own fantasies, their own minds were already put them. Even they physically might not have been adulterous, in their minds they might have been. So so the way he treats this woman and this case. You can infer from that these other cases, that he's saying the same things. Well, look, we can judge the abortionist and say, well, we're going to stone you to death, but that's actually not what he wants. He says, well, we all make mistakes. They made a mistake. We have to forgive them. And then if we look at the homosexuals, say, well, again, he's saying, well, it's up to me to deal with them, like, just let them be. So, and if you then bring this all the way back to like same-sex marriage, you could look at Old Testament and look at this rule and say, well, homosexuality is wrong because it's there. But then you should treat adulterous people the same way and start throwing rocks at them, or throw rocks at, you should do all those rules. You should probably go to the doctor, get circumcised, stop eating pork, and just go back to the old law, because this is because Jesus actually saying, well, we're going to look beyond the old law. It's not, he doesn't abolish it, he adds to it. And he says, well, look, if you want to judge other people, just look at yourself, look at your own mistakes. And so we as people do not judge other people for what we think that should be or should not be done. Now, there are, of course, so when Kavanaugh talks about these, as a Republican, about these things, it's interesting, because he's showing here, like, look, the times are changing. We look at these laws. We're happy with these laws. We're happy that people that are convinced that they're in love with somebody of the same sex, that they can live lives like straight people, that they can also get married and be happy. And we are happy that black people are not being having all these racist laws put against them. We are happy that women can vote. We are happy that all these laws have changed from something like an old-fashioned kind of thinking into a more newer kind of thinking, which actually is based on this moment where Jesus shows us that we how to look at things. Now, he's not saying that those things are perfect. A woman being adulterous is, of course, not good, but in the end, basically, it's up to the husband what to think about it, and vice versa. So it's not like if who are you to judge somebody else's life and even hurt people because they're not in line with what you think their life should be, I mean, it would be horrible if my wife did something, if I had a wife, she did something wrong, and then other people start hurting her, then without even asking me what I think about it, this, I mean, how silly is it? Is this, I mean, isn't it up to between two people to deal with these situations? And instead of like a whole group throwing rocks at them, like, and it's so easy to now look back and think about this and talk about this in that such a way. And of course now when but before Jesus said these words, before Jesus changed our mind about how to look at these things, this was the law, and it could have still been the law. And in some cases, in Islamic countries, it is still the law, where homosexuals get killed, women that are accused of being adulterous are being killed, etc. So, and these were all laws, this was Kavanaugh saying, these were all laws that basically were changed. So there was a law that were racist, misogynist, homophobic, and these were changed because we saw the error in those laws. And he's saying here, well, if we find errors in this abortion law, that it was not okay to kill a young person below 24 weeks, then why should not we also have the right to change that? Why wouldn't it be a good thing to change it? And these other cases show that can be done, and that's a good thing. And so I think that's a very good argument. And yeah, but it was not actually the thing that I want to show. I think he was talking about something else that I want to talk about. Another thing that he said that I thought was interesting. Here speaks again. Let's look.
You make a very forceful argument and identify critically important interests that are at stake in this issue, no doubt about that. The other side says, though, that there are two interests at stake, that there's also the interest in fetal life at stake as well. And in your brief, you say that the existing framework accommodates, that's your word, both the interest of the pregnant woman and the interest of the fetus. And the problem, I think the other side would say, and the reason this issue is hard, is that you can't accommodate both interests. You have to pick. That's the fundamental problem. And one interest has to prevail over the other at any given point in time. And that's why this is so challenging, I think. And the question then becomes, what does the Constitution say about that? And I just want to get your reaction to what the other side's theme is, and I've mentioned it in my prior questions. When you have those two interests at stake, and both are important, as you acknowledge, why should this court be the arbiter rather than Congress, the state legislatures, state Supreme Courts, the people being able to resolve this? And there'll be different answers in Mississippi and New York, different answers in Alabama than California, because there are two different interests at stake, and the people in those states might value those interests somewhat differently. Why is that not the right answer?
Okay, maybe we'll listen to maybe your answer too, but this is what I was talking about, what I was looking at actually. And here is making the case for the thing is that from the pro-abortion side, they say, well, we need this, women need this, we need to be able to abort these children because having a child changes things for a woman, and that's certainly true. I mean, a lot of things can change your life. I mean, you can have an accident, you can get an illness, you can have good things. You can get married, you get a relationship. I mean, life changes are always. You can have a new job. You can have all sorts of things happen to you, and like I said, I think I said, and what I said earlier, like we live in a society where having a child out of wedlock or having a child unexpectedly is some evil. And it used to be like that. We used to be in the stage where a woman that was having sex out of wedlock would get stoned to death. That was like 2,000 years ago, and it still is in some certain places. But we have this, and we're still living in that. We're still not evolved from that. We're still not, and that's just where this is the biggest shortcoming, I think, of feminism. And I'm not saying that as in being anti-feminist. I'm pro-feminist. I can see myself as a feminist. I'm pro-woman. I'm pro. I want to see women in the workplace. I love to see a woman who has a career, and I find it even attractive. That and the thing is that I want that, and I think it's unfair when women get paid less, have a harder time going through um, 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 how do you say it? When there's glass ceilings going on, when all these things are going on, I think that's like horrible because if I have a life partner, I want her to have all the chances and abilities and have a fair treatment. I don't want her have any disabilities or disadvantages for being a woman. That's crazy. And as her partner, that affects me too. It affects me on because it hurts me because I feel disrespect for my partner, and I don't want her to have that, and I want her to have all the chances any guy would have. Now I do recognize that as a woman she can have children. I want to have children one day. So but I don't want, and I think that we should like look at those differences and say, well, we see that women are just as effective and just as important in the workplace, but we should accommodate for these things. We should first take into account that certain things should not affect their career. I mean, we cannot expect women to be at the same level as men and have the same careers as men in the same jobs as men, and then just kind of forget about the fact that they could have children, and then when they do, then like punish them for it, punish them financially, punish them in their career, punish them in their education, punish them socially or on the work floor or whatever, you know, like this is what a woman does. If women stop having children, we're all gonna die out. Civilization is gonna end, you know. So instead of like treating that as something that oh, you're on the work floor, well, you should be like a man now because we have dominated certain areas. We have been on this work floor mostly without women. Of course, there's lots of work floors where women have been around for a long time, but on some floors they're still not used. They're still getting used to it. But on every work floor, it should be just global, and like in every country, there should be laws where women are protected during pregnancies, that it doesn't affect them socially, economically, career-wise, or any ways. They should be totally protected. And then we don't have to say, oh, the burdens of having a child are too much for a woman. Now, will they have to carry the baby? Yes. Do they have to probably eat more? They're gonna have a big belly, and all these things. And of course, giving birth is a very intense thing to happen to a woman. I completely understand that. Like, it actually worries me, you know, having to one day have a wife having to go through that. I hate that. Actually, I wish that those risks. That I hate that those risks exist. But those are the facts of life. I have to travel to work. Those things have risks. People are doing jobs that have risks. They are like, and there are people that are going into coal mines. People that are soldiers. we as human beings, life can throw um, can throw things at us, and I think that if you look at the risks and the burdens that women have, then first of all the burden should be taken away with new laws and new rules. And I think that we're at a level of social economical development where it's crazy that we haven't done that yet. It's basically because we're just lagging behind, and feminism is too focused on abortion instead of like stripping all these differences between men and women and equalizing all these things, and relying too much on abortion. I don't think that any woman would have an abortion if she would have a socio-economical um, um, support. If a young woman would have a child, would get pregnant, and she would like it would the school would have a system in place where maybe it could be a special school, maybe the school could have special way of dealing with this, where they can just go to school, and where also they wouldn't have this social pressure on them from family, parents, people in the street, people in school, teachers. If there would be like complete acceptance of things like this happening, instead of trying to hide it with abortions. And the same could go for like colleges and all every and women should be at any part in their life should be they can get pregnant, and if they do they should be supported instead of like being treated as outcasts. I think we should like celebrate this even if it's unexpected. It's life. We all know that they're doing things that can lead to it. We don't really think that's strange. We think that's normal. Why do we think it's strange when they get pregnant and keep the baby? Young women are having abortions because they don't want to be looked at school as being different. They don't want the judgment of their grandparents, their parents, family members. Uh, is that really a good reason? Not being judged. I mean, there are things in life that if she would have been a lesbian, or if a guy is gay or something, they're going to be judged for that. Now, are they going to abort that? They cannot abort that either. They have to live with that. If they done something stupid, made a big mistake, they have to live with that. If they're fat, if there are if there's any reason, and I'm pretty fat right now myself, I'm still trying to lose weight, but so there are all kind of reasons why, and I used to be really skinny, so skinny that I got they called me stuff for that, and I like red hair and stuff. I had much. I know what it is when people make fun of you. So I'm not saying it trying to, but instead of like, there shouldn't be a reason to. We have to address people doing things like that, their mindsets, instead of like trying to hide the differences, hide the situation, like it's this incredibly terrible situation. So yeah, we should empower the woman. Now, at this point, it's not done enough, of course. So that's why they say there's a burden for this woman. But let's look at the burden for the child, and this is what Kevin is talking about. The burden for the child is pretty much dying. So, what can be worse than that? I mean, would you rather die than have your grandparents say, "Oh, how could you have done this? Why did you get pregnant? Why weren't you thinking? Oh, you're so stupid." That's annoying. and it can be very hurtful. It doesn't. It's not really nice of those grandparents to say those things to you. They could have been more, nicer about it. But anyway, the thing is that dying and having your grandparents scold you for getting pregnant, or what's worse, dying or getting pregnant in the middle of if in some kind of thing at work where you are needed, and you're like, well, I just got pregnant, and you were trying to get like a raise or something, and now they're not going to give you the raise because you got pregnant. Is that fair? No, it's not fair. We should address that. Getting pregnant shouldn't affect you that much in your work. It shouldn't. So there should be some kind of way to get back on track, or even just get a raise regardless. Because you have shown to be worth it until that point. Now you get pregnant, maybe you will need to take 2 months off or 3 months off, and so now they cannot. No, now that shouldn't really affect if you get a raise or not. But even if you do not get a raise, even if those things are not met yet, and even we just keep disregarding those unfair things, is it worse than dying? No, it's not worse than dying. Okay, now what if you're religious, and you have like Muslim or Christian, Jewish even, and Indian, I don't know, and they say, your parents say, well, what have you done? What have you done? Is that worse than dying? No, it's not. Now maybe they will kill you. Yeah, that would be worse than dying if they kill you. But you could run away if you think that. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. It happens. It happens a lot, too much. If you're worried about, and it happens also, like children or young people or anyone below 18, or even like not living at home, still living at home. These with very religious parents, they will run away because either they get an abortion or so they can hide it, but that's even hard. So, and then so it's a very dangerous situation. But they can still escape it, and also shouldn't we address those people? Shouldn't we address those religious people and try to educate them on why it's not right to kill your daughter? So there's a choice of a risk of violence or certain death. Now, certain death sounds a lot worse. No, not certain death, death. I'm not even dying, or maybe dying, or being threatened to get killed, or actually dying. Now, there's things like rape and stuff. Rape is really bad, and having to live with that is bad, and having to live with a pregnancy from that, really, really, really bad. But again, and I mean, I'm not saying this to be cheeky or anything or whatever, death or living with something like that, I don't know. If you really had a choice, dying, or if you really had a choice to choose between two things for two people, like one person is gonna die or the other person has to live for a few months in this terrible situation, I think even most women in that situation might choose like, well, I'd rather not kill this child because this child is innocent. While others might think, well, take this kid out of me because it's horrible and I hate it. So I can understand this is a terrible situation. It's not something. But still, I think that still is worse than having to. I mean, even after like a couple of months when she has given birth to the baby, she can still have her whole life. She can have therapies. Now, therapies are not gonna completely take everything away, probably, but I think dying or going through a horrible time, therapy. I mean, they're gonna need therapy anyway, and they have to deal with what happened anyway, and who knows, maybe even having that baby and giving birth, it might be even something different in their life to think of than just this horrible moment in their life. So uh, I'm not an expert on any of this, of course, and I'm not even a woman, so it's I don't want to pretend like I know everything, but I'm just trying to make the extreme circumstance between the child just dying and not getting born, and living, and having and making that choice uh, after a situation like that, and then keeping on living, or giving birth to a child like that, and then giving up for adoption. So I think still that in even that situation, um, yeah. I mean, I still choose life in that situation over such an extreme solution. I mean, you could say, well, why not give a woman like that an abortion? Sure, it sounds like very, very reasonable, but it's actually not. It's not very, very reasonable. It's like saying, well, oh, my neighbor, he is always so making loud noises, and I have terrible headaches, and he's always screaming, and it's loud music. Is that an excuse to do something bad to that neighbor? No, it's not. You might, you might you want to move, and it take you a couple of months before you can find a new house. You know what I mean? I'm trying to put it into perspective. Anyway, I know this is a hard case. There are other cases where a child actually threatening the life. In those cases, they're not abortions. They're like life-saving treatments from a doctor. If a doctor has to remove the child because the mother is he knows the mother's not going to survive the pregnancy because something has gone wrong, and this has happened when like the fertilized egg gets stuck in like the ovaries or something like that. That's a very life-threatening situation, and then they have to like take away the have to take it away. So these are things where it's like it's not even an abortion. An abortion is when you take a reasonably healthy woman and a reasonably healthy child and then remove the child. So we are abortion is stopping stopping a natural process that will end up probably with a healthy baby or somewhat healthy baby at the end. That's an abortion. You're actually ending the life of a baby that is growing, and not now in this case where where the female life is threatened. This it has no the child cannot actually be born because the woman will die before it ever gets born. So it's not an abortion. Okay, so I probably can go over like a lot of different situations right now, but basically what he is saying is that we're making a choice about two people: a child that's growing and a mother that has the child in her growing. And we know that whatever happens, it will affect both their lives. If you say, well, the mother has not the right to do anything about this, then she has to bear the child. This will mean she will have a big belly, she have to eat, she have to give birth to it. There are risks involved, and etc. Now, somewhere else in this case, they talk about that now you can give up your child for abortion, for adoption, sorry, completely different. And you can say, well, I give up all my rights to this child. So normally, when a child was born, you had some kind of legal care for it, where you would have to take care of it, have to pay money for it. Now the parents can give that up. They say, well, at birth, I don't want to have to do anything with this child. So basically, the financial burden, other burdens will fall away at birth, and then the child will go through the adoption process. So the burden now at this moment is no longer, is a lot smaller. It's not a whole life. It's basically just giving birth to the child. That's all the things that the woman has to do. And I'm not saying that's without risk. So, but a risk of dying, and dying again, like if you look at the birth rates and how things are going with that, the chances of actually dying at birth and getting aborted, I mean, there's no, I mean, getting aborted will kill you. I mean, there's no only abortions that are beyond 24 weeks can sometimes end up in not being an abortion at all, but getting aborted before 24 weeks will absolutely kill you. So comparing risks and burdens with absolute death, I don't think anything, I mean, unless it will be complete torture for you to have every minute that you have this baby in you, it would give you some kind of mental torture or whatever. I don't think you can really say that the burden of having a child is worse than dying. I mean, how many things are worse than dying? So, and again, those are extreme cases. If you would have extremely mental problems, then, I mean, still those things can, those are very medical situations. I'm trying to talk about healthy, pretty healthy women and pretty healthy children, where giving birth to a healthy baby and then continuing your life in a reasonable, okay manner are expected, you know, and not some kind of extreme case where something is wrong. Because then you have to go into the details and that kind of stuff. No, normally carrying a baby and taking care of it should be, I mean, we've been doing it for like since the beginning of time. No, not beginning of time, beginning of our planet. I mean, the planet's 4 billion years old. And I mean, look at the birds in the sky. Do you see them complain about I mean, they sit on their eggs after they've given birth to it. They keep them warm. The males and feed the females when they're sitting on the eggs. It's such a natural thing to love your children and take care of them, and it's really basically, most animals don't have anything better to do. It's like the best part of their existence, to have this moment where they feel this love for their children, and you have this relationship where they teach their children to teach the birds to fly, and they feed them, and it's something that gives a human being a lot of or any living thing lots of meaning to their life, you know. Now I understand that with our complex lives, that we might have other plans, and like I said, like our society is not really they're really treating, they want you to push you in a certain way where you have to have that children when you are married, and you have to have those children when you're ready for it, and when you have your husband's making good money, and if you're making good money, and you have your house and you have everything in order, then you're going to have those children. and really like I haven't been born in the best situations. My mother was really ill, and I think, I mean, all you need really is love. You know, you really need that love from your parents, and it really doesn't matter as a kid where you live in. I mean, I lived in the most really weird circumstances. Really like my house, the house I grew up in was, wow, I don't even know how to explain it. I know if you know the word bidonville, it's like how people live in Africa, like so, it's so that dirty, you know, like there's those. I felt I would compare it to that because the house is really old. We didn't have most things that most people have. I mean, we had running water, but it was really in a weird location. We didn't even have like a normal sink behind it. We had we couldn't just flush the toilet. We had to put like buckets of water in it. There was no shower. Later on, we did get like a bathtub, but it had to be filled with like hot water from the stove. You know, my mother had to boil hot water and throw it in because we didn't have hot running water. Um, the toilet was so it wasn't even, I don't know, it was really horrible. I didn't even dare to go there. I was really, and the whole house was so old and scruffy, and man, it was really how I grew up. It wasn't really a palace, you know. It was really basic. And but my mom, I had the sweetest mom, you know. She was so loving, so caring, and even though, I mean, she was very mentally ill, she gave me so much love that I think that really it's not about where you are socially, economically, if you're married, if you have money, if you have a nice house, if anything, you know, like most of the people, even if you have to live with social security or whatever, if your mother's not spending her money on cigarettes and whatever, then you can feed your children, you know. Um, we have a society where everything is taken care of, and people will get money even if they don't have a job, even though things are problematic, you know. So there's really no reason not to have a child, I think, except for that you are led to believe that you do need all those great things to give your children the best in the world. If all you need to give them is love, that's really what they need: love and care, and take good care of them, and watch over them. And so aborting a child because you don't think you can afford to have them, wow. I mean, wow. I don't know. That's just like bringing your cat to, you know what I mean? Like, will you drown, like those people that drown little kittens after they were born? Like, oh, I don't know what to do with them. I'm just gonna drown this bag of little kittens. I mean, why? There's who doesn't want a little kitten? You know? Do you really think that you have to pay for all their medical bills and whatever? What are you afraid of? Why are you doing that? You know? No. I think that abortion is old-fashioned. It really doesn't fit in our times. I mean, I know 60 years ago. What is it? 60 years ago? Yeah, 60 years ago, we were just after the war. There were lots of. We were still economically not at that point where we had everything that we wanted, and people and we had feminism just growing and showing us that women are equal and that we should treat them as equal, and they have all these rights, and they thought that, well, we only can get there if women can choose not to have children, because that's the only way that women can be equal in the workforce. And I think that's not true. Women don't need to abort their children to be equal in the workplace. Women always have been equal in the workplace. Women have always been equal to men, and women don't need to abort children or have a right to abort their children to achieve something that they already are. They already are equal to men. They don't need a right to kill another human being to be equal to men. I think that's a big mistake that need to be rectified. We need to the reasons why they thought that, and why that was such a big part of what they were saying, because they didn't want to have men to have any excuse to exclude women. Well, men no longer men no longer are allowed to have excuses to exclude women. We are that would be, if a man would say that, if like abortion was off the table, and then a group of men would come and say, well, I don't want to hire that woman because if she gets pregnant I have to give her money, then he would just get cancelled. So I don't think that we have to be afraid. We're living in a different world. I think that women have so much power now in our society that men will not be able to will not dare to say things like that. I do dare to say that abortion is not necessary, and I don't say that because I have anything against women or feminism. Actually, I see myself as a feminist that wants to address the problems why we think that abortion is necessary. The problems and the women's rights that we need are women's rights for support at any age, any situation during a pregnancy. We need jobs. In jobs, we need women to be have rights and protection, so that their career is not affected, that their education is not affected, that they cannot that they're protected from religious prosecution, from social prosecution, that we build a net around pregnant women where they're completely protected, instead of just saying, well, we're not going to put the net down. You just have to live with all those things and all those problems. When you do want to have a child, it's better to have an abortion. I think that's like they didn't say, well, look, here yeah, that's like ignoring actual problems, and then creating and then using another horrible problem to fix it. I do think that, yeah. Do I have anything more to say? Okay. So that's what Kavanaugh is saying here, that the right to live against the problems of having to deal with bringing a pregnancy to full term, which can be tough. I mean, certainly, like I said, like if you're really young, if you have religious family members, but we have to like deal with those problems that those young women or those women can face, and like fix those problems, and not be force them. Like now we're saying, well, oh, your grandparent doesn't like you to have a child. He is okay. Get an abortion. Your boss doesn't want you to have. Oh, get an abortion. Oh, you know. Oh, your boyfriend. Oh, your school. Your, you know what you're saying? Like some out. Oh, you don't have enough money. Oh, you don't have a job. Oh, all these. We're saying that to have a child, your school, you shouldn't be in school. You it shouldn't affect you should have a job. That it doesn't matter to have a child at that point. Your parents should be happy about, your grandparents should be happy, your religion should be happy about it, and everyone in society should be happy about you having a child. You should have money in the bank. You should have a nice house. You should have a nice, good relationship, or be married. That's what we're saying when we say that we need abortion. Now, all those things are misogyny, because they're all saying that a woman should live up to all those outside things, that she doesn't have agency of her own life to do whatever she wants. If she has accidentally that baby inside of her and she feels that she wants to keep it, or at least bring it into the world, that she does not she has all these forces working against her, her social economical situation, her religious situation, her family situation. You know what I mean? This is those things that feminism should be thinking about. This is what they should be fighting about. This is what I would want for the women in my life, to not face all these problems. If I have ever had daughters, I don't want them to be thrown out of school, or miss a school year, or miss a career, or get judged by family, or miss or have problems in their career because they suddenly have a child. I don't want it for my daughters. Once I have, if and once I have them, I don't want it for my future wife. You know, why would I want that? I want those things fixed. Okay, I guess I'm beating that horse now. I'm saying the same things over and over again. So what's more? Let's look at this one. This woman, she's like superwoman. She has, I think she has like 9 or 11 kids or something. I don't know. Let's see what she has to say. Is this the first? Oh, I wanted to. Well, the reaction. I want to show you. I will show you. I should show you some reactions.
And a state Supreme Court has to decide, as a matter of state constitutional law, what the scope of an abortion right is. And the second trimester ends at 27 weeks. And so that state Supreme Court says, we think that the right exists, you know, in an absolute sense, that the state cannot take away the right up to 27 weeks. And then after that, adopts an undue burden standard. As a matter of first principles, is that line acceptable as a matter of constitutional law?
Your Honor, it may be, but I think that the question in this case is whether a line is obviously more principled or obviously more workable than viability because of the stare decisis context.
Why, I mean, that's the Roe framework, basically, the trimester. Why wouldn't that be workable if you pick a line and say the end of the second trimester, 27 weeks, third trimester, states' interests increase? I don't understand why 27 weeks is less workable than 24.
I'm not trying to suggest it is, Your Honor, and what I was trying to suggest is that the viability line is a principled and workable line, so to change it, there would have to be a new line that's obviously more principled and more workable, and the line that the court has drawn actually...
But that's stare decisis. I'm asking as a matter of first principles.
As a matter of first principle, the viability line makes sense because if the state constitution is the same...
As a matter of prudential judgment, it's not constitutionally required as a matter of first principles, because in fact, we could decide to be more protective and say 27 weeks end of the second trimester.
You could, Your Honor, but the viability line makes sense given the protection for liberty because it comes from the woman's liberty interest in resisting state control of her body. And once the court recognizes that interest, it does need to draw a line, as it does in many other constitutional contexts like the Fourth and Fifth Amendment. And the viability line, as I mentioned, makes sense because it focuses on the fetus's ability to survive separately, which is an appropriate legal line because it's objectively verifiable and doesn't delve into philosophical questions about when life begins.
Thank you, counsel.
I'm just watching, seeing if somebody else, nothing's going to be said. Okay, so what Barrett here talks about, she's asking the question if, why not draw the line at another location? Why not increase it for the mother and put it at 27? This would give the woman even more chance to do an abortion. And then the Center of Abortion Rights here, she said that she wanted to keep it at 24 and saying that that was a better location. There's not much said here, but it's interesting that Barrett want to say this because basically throughout this talk what they're talking about is like would you like change that location, would you change the 24, and they're talking about making it longer, shorter, and basically she's saying it's all or nothing. Either we stay at 24, we don't go higher, we don't go lower, we're keeping this line, and if this line is not good enough, then nothing else will be good enough for them, for the abortionists. So she's basically saying here, and she's being asked here by Barrett, she's being asked by a couple of people that were saying, well, okay, we go lower, we go higher. Every time she's saying, no, this is what we keep. So if the judges would agree that the 24 line, that they want to go lower or higher, basically what she just said is that, well, you cannot go higher or lower. I'm not going to accept that. That's not acceptable. So if they do decide to go higher or lower, then the conclusion would be the complete abolishment of this law, because she's not accepting anything else but keeping this line where it is. And if the decision is that they want to change it, then basically the whole thing falls through, because they cannot put it higher or lower. They have to say, well, if you don't accept a change, then we just have to quit the whole thing. We have to stop this law of abortion, allowing abortion even at 24 weeks or lower or higher, because we want to lower it, but you won't allow it. We want to higher it, we don't allow it. So then it ends. And she's been asked it several times in several ways. Here Barrett says is, from what do you want to make it higher for 27 weeks, which would be in her favor, because and also it would be crazy, because then you basically you will be killing babies that are able to breathe and live outside of the womb. But she is not allowing it to any of the judges to change anything about this 24 weeks. Let me see if I can find some other things. I mean, like, I think the first guy I showed you, Breyer, he talks about the super case, and this case is not only the case of the century, but it's the case of everything, because for me, like I said, like I've drawn a lot of where I'm comparing abortion with slavery, killing black people, killing Jewish people, killing homosexual people. For me, I mean, these are 60 million abortions in America, and there's so many more over the globe. I think they're like 1 billion or something. There's so many abortions. Is that right? That seems too high. I don't know. I should look that up. I know there are a lot of abortions, And all these, and the thing is that if you look at a black person as not a human being, and I would tell you, well, there are human black people. If I would tell you, well, a million black babies were aborted, then it wouldn't matter because they're black babies. And if you're like a slave owner, you say, well, oh, that's a waste. We could have a million slaves, you know. So, I mean, if you are an impression that a person doesn't have value for some reason, whether it be their color of their skin, their race, their sexual, you know, all those things, their sex, their sexuality, their religion, their, well, yada yada yada, their political beliefs, their, if they're fat, if they're ugly, if they're brats, if they're like bullies, if they're like if they're like, if you think that it's okay to kill a person for not liking them or not valuing them, then you will not be impressed when I say there's a million abortions. You will not be impressed if I say, if you're like if you're anti-Semitic. I mean, I looked at Nuremberg trials yesterday, and they showed a video about the camps, and there were all these Nazis were sitting there that were being judged, and they showed the first. They started up this video of these Jews in camps, and they were like behind. They're in the camps. They have these clothing. You can see them. They're looking through barbed wire, but the image was upside down. Somebody did the right thing with doing the video. I mean, it's a long time ago. And they left. The Nazis that were sitting there, they all left, looking at these Jews upside down in these camps. As the videos, they were all laughing. They killed 6 million Jews, and they were on the stand for that. And they laughed at seeing these Jews in these concentration camps because the video was, the image was upside down. And they laughed at them. And at this point you could see how they really didn't give anything about these people. These people were rats to them. They were less than rats. They had no value. And it's crazy that people can look at and think about a human life and laugh. I mean, there are people that will listen to me, what I have to say, and they will laugh at me. They will laugh at what I have to say. They will laugh when I talk about a million abortions. They will laugh. They think it's funny. I had an online chat on my Facebook with somebody, and I talked about the 60 million abortions, and I was talking about America, and he said, well, there are lots more, and he said, well, look at this website where you can see all the abortions in the world, and he ended it with saying, well, have fun looking at the counter going up. And that's like the same as a Nazi saying, well, you know, we're gonna, you know what I mean? It's like they don't or like some racist making news jokes or whatever, you know, or these these Nazis at Nuremberg laughing at Jews in a camp, and that's how these people look. I mean, wife beaters, homo beaters, I don't know what a good word for that. People who hurt other people because they think they're better than them. They don't care really about those other people. They already put those people in a lower, in a bracket where they don't care if they live or die. They don't care. They're jokes to them. They're jokes. They literally laugh at for them, like they're like, oh, you're not a religious freak, fighting for a fetus, fighting for these children, they don't even think that what we are talking about, or what I'm talking about, that they're even real human beings that have any value. And trying to explain that to somebody, trying to explain to a Nazi the value of a Jew, or a racist the value of a colored person, the value of a woman to a wife beater, the value of a homosexual to a homophobic person, is like explaining them why they shouldn't squat flies. Why they shouldn't, like, I eat meat. Those animals die for me. I used to be vegetarian for a year. I only started eating meat again because I thought I'm an omnivore. I'm both carnivore. I'm basically human beings. Their system, my stomach, my whole body is evolved from eating vegetables, fruits, and meats, and probably insects and stuff. But I eat everything. My body is designed to eat everything. I don't know what happens. I'm not convinced that I can just change that without getting deficiencies or whatever. And to be honest, I like yeah, I like it. I mean, it's not like I don't eat. I don't like them dying. I don't like animals dying for that, and I don't think that. Actually, in my heart, I think that animals are not that different, have less value. I don't believe that in my heart, and it's kind of crazy that I still eat animals. If you look at that, I wish I didn't need to, and you can make case for I don't need to, but I'm not sure about that. I think that I have my own way of thinking. I think, well, those animals will die also at some point. Like, if you look, I was once when I was vegetarian, and I was at the sea. We have the North Sea here in Holland, and there were like, the whole beach was full of all these shells. There were like thousands and thousands, and probably hundreds of thousands of shells along the shoreline. There's so many life in the sea, and I thought, well, look, would it have been so bad if I would have like taken one of those shells when the animal was still alive, living in it, and take it out of the shell and then eat it just before it died, or at the point that it died? Would have been that bad? They would have died. They died, actually. I mean, the whole shore was full of them, and I thought, well, maybe if I catch them and eat them, they're not gonna live as long, but they're still gonna have lived, and it would be the best just to wait until they die and let them have the full life, and then when they die, eat them. But that's pretty practically impossible to do. But would it be so bad that before they die, before they rot, or before something else eat them, if I would eat them? And that's how I justified myself eating animals again. Now, that justification might be completely selfish, and justifying my own desires to eat meat, my own. I could have also said, well, I just eat meat because I don't know if I think I will be deficient without eating meat. That's actually a fact that I do think. I think I would be deficient and lacking in, because the way I eat, I already eat bad. If I stop eating meats and the way I eat, I probably like really deficient, and I wouldn't maybe function as good as I do, and I might get diseases or whatever. But I actually, that's another thing that I was looking for this. I think, to be honest, I think that I first believed I was deficient, and I was looking for an excuse or a justification to eat meat. And this was my justification to do something that I actually believed that I needed to do. I needed to eat meat for my own benefits and my own health, and I justified it in this way. And that is actually what abortion is. It's a justification for your own needs. A woman might think that this pregnancy that she's having is going to ruin her life. It is ruining her life. That her plans, her career, her education, her parents, the whole world is going to crash down on her because of this pregnancy. And that's basically because we didn't prepare the world for her pregnancy. We allowed um, a bigotry. We allowed religious fanaticism to not be taken care of, and now she has all these problems in the world because we did not fix them, and the only way out that we given her was abortion. So this woman now, with all these problems and all this misery, she's forced to get that abortion because that's the only thing that feminists have fought enough for her to give her, and thought that would be her solution. While they should have given her, actually created a situation where she would not feel the need to do that, and where it would be selfish to do it, because she has actually nothing but maybe the discomforts and the birth itself as a reason to do it. But we not giving her the support that she needs, the socio-economical support. Actually, we have not eliminated all the problems that she's facing right now, and we've only given her a way out that she might regret for the rest of her life, and might give her mental problems, might give her pain and suffering and regrets. But the justification that the pro-abortion lobby is given for this is that they say, well, they say things as well. It's not this, and you can hear that a lot about what they say. Oh, it's a human's right, and a human's right is not a justification. It's not. You say that it's a human's right because you feel and want it to be a human's right. But how can a woman's right to kill her own baby? That doesn't make own sense. It's not. Is it a woman's right to cut off her own hair? Yes, sure, she can cut her own hair. She doesn't need to have long hair. Is it a woman's right to cut off her own arms? Well, it kind of is. I mean, people can do it, but we don't. That's not. To end their own life. Actually, I don't think we allow that. I think we will give those people care, and we prevent them from taking their own life. That's called euthanasia or suicide. We don't allow that. We don't allow people to hurt themselves because we believe that one day they might think different about it. We believe that their reasons might be temporary. They might be persuaded otherwise. They might grow out of it. It might be because of mental problems. It's not normal for a person to want to do that. But is it then normal to do that to their child? It's not. But like I said, there was once a time in the 60s when feminism was at a point that they just wanted women to be in a bad situation. They were in a bad situation. They didn't have big, high positions in government. I mean, we had Thatcher. We have now, I think, the German chancellor. I mean, we had a black president. I mean, times has changed. We're not. This is no longer the 60s. Women can do whatever they want, and we give them all the equal opportunities and all the equal, and they are completely equal with us. And we're not trying to. there might be a little bit of glass ceiling here and there. I mean, I can understand that's something we have to keep fighting, and certainly with this like I said, like stopping a woman from having a career because she can have children or will have children or has children. That should not be. That should be. Should be. There should be something done with that. We should be looking at it and saying, well, look, we shouldn't treat women different because basically one of the things that they do in their life might be put new human beings on this world, and we should say, well, look, this is such an important thing that they're doing, and this is so integral part of femininity that we should in our workplace build protection, and we should not punish them for that. We should have a way of like eliminating those differences through whatever way we can, and not punish them for those situations, and so they have to don't need abortion, they don't need anything like that. But that's what in the 60s was basically their reasoning for abortion. And I think that we can eliminate those reasons in another way by giving women full equality. Not equality through abortion and killing of their own babies, but equality through recognizing things like the effects of pregnancy in their career, in their school, in their family, social, economical, in all these ways, all these reasons that we can find where an abortion could like have a negative effect on a woman's life. We should like deal with every aspect of it and eliminate those problems for them before they get in that situation. And so they only have to make a choice. Well, they don't need to make a choice actually. All they need to do is just wait 9 months or whatever they still have left in their pregnancy until they have that pregnancy, and then they continue with their lives either as a mother or as a woman that has given birth. That's going to continue her life and give the child up as adoption. So that's all that the woman would have to do in that situation, and she shouldn't have to deal with all the other factors. Wow. But yeah, this is a legal case, super case, the case that is going to change everything, hopefully, and there's a good chance for that. If we look at the judges, I think that Trump has put 3 judges in the court. Of course, we know Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh was really had a huge battle, and he's still there. So, and Barrett, she has I think she has a lot of children of her own and adopted children, and that's a superwoman. That's what when I said that I admire woman. That's the kind of woman that I admire. This is exemplary woman, and it's of course it's a partnership. I think that them adopting children and then having those children, so many children, and then having a career, and then being like in the Supreme Court. I think that's exactly what I'm trying. That should be available for every woman. That should be and not just someone who is in the perfect circumstances. And of course, she worked really hard for that. But not every woman has maybe parents that and can go through. And maybe she had struggles through. I don't know, but. And probably she made a lot of good choices in her life, and obviously I don't know what kind of how her life was, of course, But I think that even if women get in situations where they don't have the children at the moments that they want them, that shouldn't affect their lives. They should still be able to end up as Barrett or any other woman here on the Supreme Court, and they should not be have to. You shouldn't have to abort your baby to become Sotomayor or Kagan or Barrett. That's just so insane that we still pushing this kind of like, well, women have no chance of ever being as great as men if they cannot abort. That's misogyny to me. That's like saying that being a woman is not good enough. You have to be actually have to live like a man to and not have babies to be equal to men. That's misogyny to me. And misogyny means, by the way, hatred of women, which is a bit over the top, but that's what they use a lot. And it's like being anti-woman or being, I don't know. So that's anti-woman, that's anti-feminine, that's anti-feminism. Saying that you cannot be one of these three women in Supreme Court. I don't think that Barrett ever did something like that or would ever consider that. I mean, she has a lot of children and she adopted children. I know she's a Republican, and I don't think she would do that. But even if she did, she probably really regret it and whatever. But it would be crazy that she would need to do that to get into this position, and we need to take away anything that any woman would face ever to become a president, to become a CEO, become an astronaut. We should become just successful in life and living the life that she wants to do, whatever that is. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. She should be able to do whatever she wants, just as good as any man has the chances to do those things, and the fact that she has a womb should not be a factor. And we have to fight religious things with different. We should fight bigotry. We should fight the way. We should improve the way how companies deal with these things. Like when you don't give a woman a paid leave when she's pregnant. Actually, now this might get her in trouble. She still needs to pay her rent. She has a child, and now you're not giving her paid leave. And she's missing money. Now, for some woman, this could be like if she's single, if she has to pay her rent, if she's young, she don't have much money in the bank. This could be a reason for abortion. And if abortion would not be allowed, she had to deal with that. So we have to say, well, look, we're gonna look at those things. We're gonna say, well, but we're gonna make a rule where every company has to always pay through like we give them like 2 or 3 months paid leave, for example. In school, I'm just making this top of my head. We could say, well, we're gonna give those 2 or 3 months that maybe she cannot attend school. We're gonna give them, they can make up for it in the summer or something, or they could do it. They can just advance to next year, but then they'll have to do extra classes to get back what they left in the last year. So there will be put more pressure, but at least they wouldn't have to skip a whole year. And in churches, we should have to like accept the fact that people can get pregnant, out of wedlock, and that we shouldn't like Jesus says, "I'll go forth and do not sin again." We have to say, well, look, things happen, people make mistakes, we forgive, and it's not like we're gonna do a whole scarlet letter thing where we just shun those people from our society, or from we should look at religious fanatic religious people, maybe in Islam, where they have rules where they have to actually kill their daughters or hurt their daughters for things like that, and then talk with those kind of men, father figures, fathers that might, or we should just like remove those daughters from the situation and protect them until things are better. And there's so many fixes of these things, and we shouldn't just only do them a little bit. We should do them completely. And hopefully these Supreme Court judges will come to a conclusion that that this law cannot be, if they cannot change the law from like 24 weeks to less or more, then this law should not be kept, and they should just overrule this law, or whatever how do you call it, and just like I think they said, like throw it back to the people, give the power back to the people to decide in each state what they want, because all the states are different. I mean, abortion is not gonna disappear in whole America or the whole world, but it will have an effect that people will see, well, wait a minute, abortion isn't everywhere in America anymore. There are people that are looking at this, and people can point at this even in other countries, say, well, look what's happening in America. Abortion isn't so logical anymore. And the weird thing is, like in my country, we have 2 Christian parties. I think they're even ruling right now, together with another I think, yeah, like a right party, you know, it's on the right side. And the thing is that the party I vote for is very small. It's called ChristenUnie, and it's like a very small party, and it's the only one of the few parties in Holland that's actually against abortion. And then we have a very big Christian party that doesn't really actually say they want to get rid of it. And we have another party on the right side that's not even talking about it. Now, this is very different from America, because all these 3 parties together would be the same as the Republican Party. So basically, my country is governed by a Republican Party equivalent, but there's only a minority that is really hardcore. Oh no, well, not hardcore. That is actually in their statements, in their what they want is to get rid of abortion. And then the big part, the Christian party, it's called Christian, but they're not against abortion, which is really, really weird. And then we have another right side party that is actually, that also doesn't want to get rid of abortion. Wow, it's really something that normally on the left. Maybe it's hopefully maybe they could get influenced and look at America and say, well, hey, they got rid of abortion. And then my party could say to the other 2 parties, well, look, listen, would it be so crazy if we would think about this and maybe get rid of abortion in our country too? I don't know. It would be great. I would love to see that, but I think that a lot more awareness also is needed. So I hope people start raising awareness for this and thinking. This is why I'm making this video, of course, trying to make. It's like trying to explain to Germans why they shouldn't kill Jews, but at least nobody's knocking at my door, and there's no. I'm not afraid that there's some Nazi party trying to take me away and put me in chains. So I'm happy to do it, but yeah, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of thought, we have freedom of. We live in a democracies, and things can change, you know. And I know I'm happy for feminism, all the things they've done, and all the things that have changed. But it's okay to look back and say, well, feminism done all these great things, but maybe we went a bit too far with this one thing, and let's try it another way. Let's look at maybe we should have solved the problems that women had instead of giving them this way out that is might not be healthy for them, because I don't think that having abortion is healthy for a woman. I don't think that uh, uh, I think that any woman at some point will think about it like, did I do the right thing, you know? So so I think and I don't know, it's not an experiment we ever done, you know, what would happen if we would get rid of abortions. We have 30,000 abortions in my country, Holland. There will be 30,000 more children. I don't know, probably. I don't think so. I think that people would be more careful. I think that a lot of abortions are basically because they are abortions. I mean, like, let's say you have a speeding limit, and you know that if you go 10 kilometers too far, you get like €5, €5 that you have to pay ticket. Are you gonna care about going over the speed limit by 10 kilometers? No, because who cares about losing €5? If you lose €500, you might think twice about going over the speed limit. If you lose €10,000, most people would obey by the speed limit. So it's not that people they cannot stop from getting pregnant less. They can, but the reason if you have abortion is less strong. If you don't have abortion, or you make it more stringent to have abortions, like I said, like medical cases, and that's what's going to happen in America. Anyway, no, I think actually that you should just like, I mean, taking a life is taking a life, and you cannot really say, well, it's okay in this situation, but it's not okay in this situation. Okay, yeah, that person can be a slave because he is 80% African descent, and that person, no, he cannot be a slave because he's 20%. Like, you cannot, if something is wrong, it is wrong. You know, oh, that person, yeah, no, he's half Jewish. Oh, no, it doesn't matter, he's Jewish, so, let's get rid of him. No, it's not like that. You cannot say, in this situation, it's okay to abort a child. You can abort a child at 24 weeks, before 24 weeks, or before this, or before that. No. If you cannot abort a child after 24 weeks, or and you cannot hurt children, you cannot abort a 2-year-old, then why can you abort a 20-week child? Why? How is that possible? And like I said, there are reasons that people give. They say things like, well, this and that and that and that. But those are justifications. It's justifications. Like when I wanted to eat meat again, I said, well, how bad can it be to kill an animal just before it dies? It's a justification. I'm still killing animals. I'm eating dead meat. I'm eating dead animals. I'm responsible for their death. And I made it, and the reason I did it, because I felt that I needed it for my health, and I needed a full diet, because I believe that, well, I know that that as a human, our bodies are using not just vegetables, but all kinds of sorts of foods, including meats. And I justified it with this idea that, well, it's okay to kill an animal just before it dies, or because it's going to die anyway. It's a justification. It's still killing. It doesn't really matter what your justification is for killing a baby before 24 weeks. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter what you say. You can say that, oh, it's not conscious. You can say that it's still a human. You're still killing a human being. Like, if I'm asleep, I'm not conscious. Can you kill me when I'm asleep? What if you make people unconscious before you kill them? Well, is it then okay to kill? Like, if you give them an injection, make them unconscious, then you can kill? No, there's no being conscious or being developed is not really. It's so stupid, because especially with little babies, like, is a baby at 24 weeks much more conscious than a baby at 23 weeks? No, basically at 24 weeks they can survive out of the womb. They can breathe air and get nourishment and stuff. Anyway, I don't know exactly how they survive at 24 weeks, but they can. And that's really the only reason that they don't allow abortions after that is because basically it's then it would be really murder, because you're bringing a child in the world through abortion, and it would be breathing and living, and then you would have to kill it while it's living. If you take a child out of the womb at 20 weeks, it probably wouldn't do all those things. Now, it could be at the moment there's been a child at 20 weeks that they were able to put in, that was survived at 20 weeks. So basically, it's already no longer viable to keep it at 24. We should move it to 20, because technically we could do it. We could keep a child alive at 20. So already we should move from 24 to 20. But like she said, this lady here, she doesn't allow that. She doesn't want to change anything. So either we get rid of it, or you know. But it's so silly that so a child that can survive out of the womb, then for some reason you cannot kill that, but you can abort it before that. What's the reasoning? The only reasoning is that they justify it because it's the woman's right, it's their body. But the thing is that, yes, it's their body, but the child that's in them is a separate human being. A separate human being that, if not aborted, have its own life. It will grow old, have gray hair. So saying that you can kill another human just because they are because the woman doesn't want it in their body, or they don't feel that they want to keep it in their body, or it's pretty unique, because there are obviously there are a lot of women that don't want that. They don't want to keep a baby in their body. Now, I already said that that's probably because of socio-economical factors, because their grandfather doesn't want them to have a baby, because their father doesn't want, because their mother, their grandmother, their teacher, their boss. It's not that they don't want to have that, their landlord that wants to want their rent. So they're worrying about other factors than their own desires. And basically, yeah, sure, we want people to have agencies over their lives. We want them to get jobs, go to school, pay their bills. And now we live in a society where women have all the abilities to do that just as much as men. Yes, they can go to school, they can study, they can do whatever they want, have jobs, have their own homes, everything. But there's still disjunction when it comes to pregnancy, where it can affect their income, it can affect their school, their jobs, their family situation, their religious situation. And we have ignored those problems because we had this um, this solving. We solved it, and it's like most Americans know this story, the Dutch boy who puts his finger in the dike. It's like we have dikes in Holland. There are like huge um, dunes of sand and all kinds of stuff to keep the water out because our country is mostly below water. Yeah, we are working ahead with all we are already prepared for the high waters, but but then the dike starts leaking, water starts pouring out, and the thing is, like, the water pouring out, it just keeps pushing more sand from the dune, and the whole dune will fall apart, the whole dike will fall apart. So he puts his finger in to stop the water from flowing, and then stops the dike from running, and he saves everybody by stopping the dike from falling apart. And that's kind of what abortion is, where, yeah, just abort the child, so you can keep going to school, you can keep going to your job, your parents don't need to hear about it, your grandparents, they're really, you can just fix all your problems by getting rid of the child. But shouldn't we help women not having those problems? Should we just ignore the fact that they have these problems and let them force them basically to make a decision? I mean, they call it a decision, right? That they to kill their own children. How sick is that? How heartless. You don't really care about women. You don't love. I love women. I love my mother. I love my future wife. I already love my future children, my daughters, if I ever have them. And I feel love even for women I don't have yet, but I feel love for women, and I want the best for women, the woman in my life, and that extends to other women too. So if I want that for my future wife, for my future daughters, if I have them, why not? Wouldn't if I want those things for my mother? Why don't I want those things for other women? I've seen my mother suffer her whole life. I know that, and that was not even the suffering that woman go through. That was just her illness. I've seen her being hurt, and she was the sweetest mom ever. And if something is anti-misogynist, then it's me. I don't want to see women hurt. I don't want to see women suffer. I want all the suffering be taken away from all women in the world, especially my future wife, and if I have them daughters. The last thing that I want is more suffering for a woman. And I don't think that I don't think that taking away abortion will give them suffering. Actually, I think it might make it might take away like an easy solution for them to their problems. But I think that you don't know, like if a young girl gets pregnant, then if she goes through with it, with the pregnancy, it doesn't mean she's gonna have a horrible life, and she might even have a better life because she kept the baby. So it might feel when she gets pregnant that her whole life is over and people are gonna hate her and everything, but how you feel and how reality is. I think that a lot of abortions are made from uh, from 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 feeling yeah, from feeling that I know what is a word for it. I don't know. I mean, just feeling that this is that their life is that the way society is gonna look at them, uh, their financials, that they don't have the strength personally, don't have the support to do this at that point, that their plans and dreams will fall apart, relationships, everything. That's a huge thing on a woman's shoulders. So I can totally understand that they might think that all these problems might be solved with an abortion. But the problem is that if you have problems in those areas, if society, if your parents, your friends, your relationship, all those things are not ready for you to have a child in this unexpected circumstance, isn't that their fault? Aren't they not the ones that are mistreating you by not giving you options in going through school or listening to you, respecting you? There's a huge disrespect towards women when it comes to unwanted pregnancies. You know, I'm not. My mother was not married. I'm a bastard. You know, literally. You know, I know now who my I didn't even know who my biological father was. I had a stepfather. I was even taken away, put into like a foster care home because my mother had mental health. Then my stepfather came in. These were all not best. I was not born under situation. I mean, I was literally taken away from my mother. I literally didn't have a father, a biological father, until my stepfather stepped in. My mother was definitely very sick. I still had a great youth, an incredibly sweet mother, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. So if I can have that, I don't see any reason for anyone to actually need to kill a human life instead of like instead of dealing with all these problems. And when people and women cannot abort or do not abort and go through these pregnancies, young people in careers, then instead of just aborting the child, maybe they will face those problems. Maybe they will face those injustices against women. Maybe there will be a new feminism that will look at all these things, how we are trying to push working women, and the thing is, because the fact that women work is so normal now, that we expect them in school and we expect them to have the same lives as men, basically. We don't want women to have children before they're like 20, 25, 30, because they need to go to school, so they cannot have children then. They need to go to college, they need to go to get their degrees, they have to show at the workplace that they're fully invested. We're forcing women to have children when they're like, and this is, if you know a little bit of history, this is like a major change. Before, women, like 2,000 years ago, they would be like married as soon as they were able to have children, because when they would get pregnant without being married, they would have seen as having a child without wedlock, and then we got stoned to death. So as soon as a woman would have become a woman, as soon as a girl become a woman and be able to have children, they would try to marry them as soon as possible, and try not so that couldn't happen. And now we're like tripling, quadrupling that age, where and that's okay, that's fine, but we are still expecting, but we're expecting those women now that they should wait with having children, and that it is weird and strange if they have children before 20, or before that, or before. And the thing is that why can't a woman I mean, why are we? I mean, that is like really we're looking at from a religious view and a social view that's very outdated. Like in the 60s, if you would say, hey, this woman of this girl is having a child and there is no husband, she's not married, it would be a huge thing. Does it really have to be now? I mean, how many people are married and having children? How many people are not being married? There are people that never get married. You have lots of children. So and if all women are expected to, at least if they want to, go into the workforce, be part of that, just as any guy if they want to, then shouldn't we account for the fact that there are a few differences, that men cannot get pregnant and will not, I mean, they can get pregnant if their girlfriend is pregnant. So shouldn't we give, yeah, I think that there's in a lot of ways we're still very old-fashioned. We're not very we're still not completely adapted to the situation, and we need to change that. And I think, but we are kind of. I mean, I think that in a lot of jobs, women will get at least partially paid, or they will get unpaid leave or something. I mean, it's not like it would be crazy if every woman who had a child would like lose their job, lose their education, everything. I think that there already are a lot of changes going on probably in making it better for women. And I think that is maybe time to look at like getting rid of this whole abortion thing, because it's not it doesn't solve the real problem, and that is how women are treated in society still, and the misogyny that is going on against women is not, you don't like make them more like men, so because there's lots of misogyny, that's not really the answer, making women more like men, because that's what abortion is basically. You're giving a woman the choice to live like a man and never have children and still have relationships. That might sound great, but it's also very condescending against femininity. It's not feminist at all. It's very it's very much saying like, oh, these jobs are normally done and should be done by men, and if you want to do them, live like a man, work like a man, act like a man, and not have children like men. I don't think that maybe the job was once done only by men. Maybe judges, maybe there was one day there were only like male judges. But maybe one of the female judges has a child, then should that affect the situation? No. I have no, that it's completely old-fashioned and very saying that the world is not changing, and it's really against a woman to say that, well, you can work here as long as you fit in here like the other guys, and we do not respect your feminine parts. We don't respect the fact that if you and your partner get pregnant, you are the one that has to carry the baby. We don't completely are gonna respect that. We're gonna give you, yeah, you can take off, you don't get paid, or yeah, that year you probably don't get a promotion because you took time off or whatever. I don't know. I don't even know. I'm just making things up that I don't even know much about. But these are the reasons that people think that they say that women need abortion because, yeah, so they can plan their family and blah blah blah, and the burdens and that's all affecting the woman so badly. Now I think that there's some women they're affected very badly. It's mainly like a, but I think that we should address those things. And I don't think that, and some of the things might even, yeah, I don't know. If you realize that it's either a life of a child or the discomfort of a woman, then even if those discomforts are pretty high, no discomfort is, well, no discomfort, that's a bit strong. Like, I'm talking about discomfort, I'm not talking about complete torture, but like if you're having a lot of even a lot of discomfort, a lot of problems, a lot of, even going through a really hard time is not as bad as dying. And I think what Kavanaugh said about, like, we have to look at what's at stake for the child and what's at stake at the woman. They're two different things. We have to, if you're in a judge and there are two people coming to you and they said, and I mean, there's this thing about what's the thing with the baby? There's this judge and the baby comes in and the two women say, well, it's my baby. And the other one, no, it's my baby. And he says, well, come here, give me my sword, I will cut it in half, and you know. And then the other woman says, no, no, don't do that, just give the child to her. And then the judge says, well, you seem to care a lot about that child, and she was okay with cutting the child in half, so you must be the mother because you really, really cared. And that's the thing with this too. I think that a judge, when you have two people, and the one person says, well, there's so much discomfort having a child, and it's like undue burden and blah blah blah, and saying about all these things, and then the other side is silent because basically they all die because they're little babies that nobody can ever hear about, and then there's the lawyer says, well, we don't have a defendant here because there's 60 million there's 60 million dead babies, but I cannot present them here to you because they never were born. Then the judge has to say, well, that doesn't feel right. There are like 60 million mothers that killed their baby, and there are 60 million dead babies, and who has been less discomforted and more discomfort? Who here really was hurt the most? And I think that the dead babies are being hurt more than the mothers that are if they can no longer have the abortions. And that's really, there are two parties here, and that one party will never be heard. It can never be heard because they're aborted babies. But not every baby is aborted. There are men and women like me that have been born, and I'm not saying that I was ever considered being abortioned or anything, but I'm just saying it as being having been a fetus. I was a fetus once, and when I was a fetus, I didn't want to be aborted. And I think that most people will agree with that. When they were a fetus, they didn't want to be aborted. So I think we can deduct from that, like that if I didn't want to be aborted as a fetus, all people didn't want to be aborted as fetuses, and so a fetus doesn't want to be aborted. So that's a nice syllogism there. So if fetuses don't want to be aborted, then we have a stand there where we can assume that they don't want that. And then we have another stand where there are women that are pregnant and they say, well, I don't want to have a pregnancy. So one fetus is saying, well, I don't want to be killed. And another woman says, I don't want to have a pregnancy for another few months. Now you draw the sword and you make a decision. You say, well, if you don't want to have abortion, and if you don't want to have carried a child, I would say, well, bring me the sword. I will cut the child out of your stomach. And the woman says, no, that will kill me. I said, well, you don't want to have the child will die too. If the child is going to die, why should, I'm going to kill the child, and yeah, I'm just going to do what you want to do. No, forget it. I will carry the child. Anyway, I think I'll keep it with that. I've been going on long enough. Anyway, I hope you're having a super great day and a beautiful year. I mean, it's almost end of the year. And yeah, lots of love, and take care. Bye-bye.